9 million years ago, long before the first humans shaped tools or lit their first fires, the earth carried a raw, unfiltered violence. Nothing about this world was familiar. Winds carved the land with a relentless cruelty, shaping stone and sand into jagged monuments of a world without mercy. The sun burned like an open furnace. Forests shrank, rivers retreated, and the once green plains began turning yellow and cracked. Life was being pushed to its limits, and only the most adaptable creatures survived. This was the age of drought, the age of shifting power. And in the heart of these brutal drylands, two creatures stood at the top, one born of stealth and bone-crushing power, the other of patience and reptilian coldness. To the west lay a system of shallow caves carved inside the cliffs by ancient rivers long gone. Their shadows stretched across the dusty plains like dark maws waiting to swallow anything that dared approach. Inside these cavern hollows lived one of the most formidable carnivores of the age, the giant cave hyena. Larger and heavier than any hyena that would come after it, this beast was built not only to hunt, but to dominate. Dense bones, powerful forelimbs, and unmatched jaw strength made it capable of crushing through the thickest of hides. Its senses were sharp, its endurance unmatched, and its mind was wired with incredible cunning. It didn't rely on brute force alone. It stalked, waited, tested, and then tore its prey apart with unstoppable precision. In the drylands, the giant cave hyena wasn't feared because it attacked. It was feared because it never attacked without calculating every detail first. Every morning, when the sun first broke over the horizon and lit the plains in streaks of bright gold, the hyena emerged from the caverns like a shadow peeling away from the rock. Dust swirled around it as it scanned the plains, sniffing the air for the faintest clue of life. These early hours were critical, for prey was scarce, and every hunt required skill, timing, and luck. Antelope-like herbivores wandered across the cracked terrain, constantly migrating, constantly thirsty, always looking for patches of grass that had not yet turned brittle. The hyena had lived off them for years, studying their patterns, using fear and surprise as its strongest weapons. But far to the south, moving with the silence of a drifting shadow, another predator carved its own path through the drylands. A titan lizardan, enormous, real prehistoric giant. Distant kin to the modern monitor, lizard crawled through the dunes with a slow but unwavering purpose. This creature didn't need speed or ambush tactics. Its strength lay in patience. It could remain motionless for hours, conserving every drop of energy. Its long body, covered in thick armored scales, blended perfectly with the earth, and its tail could break bone with a single swing. Its bite carried bacteria potent enough to weaken anything unfortunate enough to escape its jaws. The titan lizard didn't chase prey, it infected them. It let time do the killing. The two predators ruled different realms of the drylands, but the drought was worsening, and resources were shrinking. There was not enough water, not enough shade, not enough prey. The land was forcing its beasts toward each other like storms pushed together by a shift in the wind. The hyena and the titan lizard had never crossed paths before. Each had their domain, their rules, their ways of surviving. But in this brutal age, rules didn't last long. Survival rewrote everything. One morning, the heat wave arrived earlier than usual. The ground shimmered, the air vibrated, and the sky wore a pale copper hue that promised an unforgiving day. The giant cave hyena paced along the ridge overlooking the plains, its ears twitching at distant sounds that barely existed. It was hungry. Its last real meal had been days ago, a small herbivore weakened from dehydration. Now, the hyena needed something larger, something worth the effort. Something that could sustain it long enough to survive this growing drought. Far below, dust clouds rose as a small herd of prehistoric horses trotted along a dry riverbed, their hooves clicking on stone. They were agile and alert, their ears flicking nervously. The hyena watched them with predatory calm, its body tense but still, like a sculpted statue. It began moving down the ridge, each step silent and deliberate. It stayed downwind, knowing better than to allow its scent to drift toward the herd. This hunt required precision. But the titan lizard, hidden among the reeds of a shrinking watering hole 3 kilometers east, had also noticed the herd. Its tongue flicked in and out, sensing vibrations, reading movements through chemical signals. The horses were thirsty, and this waterhole, though barely more than a puddle, was the last accessible source for miles. The lizard waited. It didn't care about the drought. In fact, droughts favored it. Herbivores grew weaker. Predators grew desperate. Everything that approached the water became vulnerable. This shrinking pool had become a trap, and the Titan lizard was the silent gatekeeper. By midday, the sun became unbearable. Many creatures retreated into shade, except those desperate for water. The horses moved cautiously toward the pool. Their nostrils flared, catching the scents around them. But the lizard remained motionless under the mud, its body almost entirely submerged, except for its nostrils and eyes. The herd didn't see it. They couldn't. To them, the pool looked lifeless. The hyena approached the scene from the western side. It froze the moment it spotted the horses. But something was wrong. The hyena noticed the way the herd hesitated, how their hooves tapped nervously, how one stepped back, as if sensing danger. The hyena scanned the pool, its sharp mind working quickly. It didn't see the lizard directly, but it felt its presence. Predators recognize each other long before conflict begins. The hyena circled around, sticking to the rocks, watching. It wasn't prepared to charge into unknown danger, not yet. But hunger sharpened its courage. The moment the first horse dipped its muzzle into the water, a sudden explosion of mud burst upward. The Titan lizard lunged, jaws wide, teeth flashing. The horses screamed and scattered, hooves kicking dust into the air. One of them stumbled, its leg caught by the lizard's powerful jaws. The lizard's teeth sank deep, tearing flesh. The horse struggled, kicking violently, but the lizard held on. The giant cave hyena's eyes lit up. This was opportunity. The lizard was occupied. Injured prey meant guaranteed food. The hyena moved closer, edging silently around the pool, gauging the distance. It wasn't planning to fight the lizard. It was planning to steal the kill. The horse thrashed harder, its cries echoing across the drylands. The lizard dragged it deeper into the mud, applying its slow, crushing weight. The horse's movements weakened. The hyena crouched low, its muscles tightening. But just as the hyena prepared to advance, the Titan lizard lifted its head, locking eyes with it. Both predators froze. Dust drifted between them. The air was thick with tension. The hyena's teeth bared in a silent challenge. The lizard remained still but alert, its jaws dripping blood, its nostrils flaring. Neither attacked immediately. Their instincts told them this confrontation wasn't about territory, it was about survival. A dead or dying horse meant a meal. But for two apex predators, a single carcass was the beginning of war. The hyena stepped forward, slow and deliberate. The Titan lizard responded by tightening its grip around the horse and pulling it closer. The hyena growled, a deep sound that vibrated through the dry air. The lizard hissed, lifting its head higher. This wasn't just a standoff. This was the first spark of a conflict that would reshape the drylands. The hyena circled the pool, watching for weakness. The lizard, still anchored to its prey, tracked the hyena with unblinking eyes. The horse's thrashing grew weaker. Buzzards circled overhead, sensing death. Everything in the drylands paused. 2 rulers, 1 kill, and a drought that promised only more struggle. Their war had just begun. The scorching afternoon deepened, and the dryland shimmered like molten metal. The wind carried the bitter scent of dust and blood, wrapping the scene in an almost suffocating silence. Lo, the circling buzzards. The giant cave hyena and the Titan lizard remained locked in a primal standoff, 2 apex predators separated not by fear, but by instinct and hunger. The injured horse lay on the mud's edge, struggling weaker with every passing second. It was the kind of moment that shaped the rhythm of the wild, a moment where survival decisions were sharpened by desperation. The hyena's yellow eyes darted between the weakening horse and the massive lizard gripping its leg. The hyena wasn't reckless, it calculated risks. And right now, it sensed something the lizard didn't. The horse was seconds away from collapsing. Once it died, it would be easier to steal. The lizard, however, understood only possession. As long as its jaws stayed locked, the prey was its own. It didn't know how badly the drought had strained the balance of power, but the hyena knew. It had seen predators fall, territory shrink, and waterholes vanish. These plains had become a battlefield not for dominance but for survival itself. As the horse's body went still, the titan lizard shifted weight to pull it toward deeper mud. That moment of transition, brief and almost subtle, was enough. The hyena lunged. It moved like a sandstorm, paws slapping dust into the air, jaws open. The lizard reacted too late. The hyena clamped its teeth around the horse's flank and pulled with all its massive strength, wrenching the carcass away from the lizard's grip. Mud sprayed as the lizard twisted violently, trying to regain hold. Its tail slashed upward, striking the hyena's ribs with a brutal thud. The hyena stumbled to the side but didn't let go. Pain flared across its body, but hunger burned hotter. The lizard surged forward, jaws snapping dangerously close to the hyena's throat. The hyena dodged, dragging the carcass backward across the dirt. The two predators collided, snarling and hissing, their bodies entangled in raw, prehistoric ferocity. The lizard's claws raked across the ground, sending debris flying. The hyena countered with a bone-rattling growl, forcing its weight against the carcass to keep it away from the lizard's reach. For a moment, neither gained the advantage. Then, with a sickening crack, the hyena bit down on the horse's torso and ripped loose a large chunk of flesh. The titan lizard lunged to bite the hyena, but the hyena was faster, retreated several paces, the meat gripped tightly between its jaws. The lizard slithered forward, tail whipping like a steel cable, but the hyena had secured its reward. It knew better than to continue the fight. Not yet. Not while the lizard was fresh, alert, and dangerously close to striking range. The hyena retreated up a cluster of rocks, its powerful shoulders heaving, its jaws drenched with fresh blood. Below it, the titan lizard reclaimed the carcass, pulling it deeper into the mud with slow, grinding determination. The wind whistled between the two predators, carrying the tension with it. For now, the conflict paused, but nothing about this truce was peaceful. Each predator had taken from the other. Each had sensed the other's strength. The next encounter wouldn't be about stealing a kill, it would be about eliminating competition. Days passed, the drought worsened, tree shadows shrank to slivers. Waterholes dried into cracked basins. Animals collapsed beside empty rivers that once teemed with life. Death stained the drylands with the stench of decay. The titan lizard, now weakened by the struggle and the limited meal it had salvaged, began searching farther from its usual territory. Its lumbering movements grew slower. Every step was a heavy drag, followed faint scents of water, relying on instinct, driven by the primal urge to survive. Its thick body cut trails through sand and reeds as it pressed onward. Meanwhile, the giant cave hyena grew bolder, energized by the stolen meal, but still hungry. It hunted across wider distances, following migrating herds, feeding on carcasses of animals that died from thirst. But even these weren't enough. Its hunger sharpened its instincts. It remembered the lizard. It remembered how dangerously strong it was, and how dangerously vulnerable. Both were being pushed into unfamiliar land. The dry lands were changing. Their paths were being drawn together again. One evening, winds carried a faint, humid scent eastward, one that echoed with the promise of water. A storm had struck the distant highlands days earlier, sending runoff toward the lowlands. Most water evaporated before reaching the plains, but shallow pools formed in brief pockets around the rocky outcrops. Word spread quickly through scent, through distant calls of herbivores, through shifting patterns of prey. The hyena caught the scent first. The titan lizard sensed it next. Both turned toward the same direction. At dusk, under the dimming glow of the sun, the hyena arrived at a narrow ravine where water collected in a deep stone bowl. Antelope tracks dotted the mud. Birds fluttered overhead. Life clung to this temporary sanctuary. The hyena drank urgently, the cool sensation reviving its strength. It scanned the ravine as it drank, always cautious, always listening. A distant rustling sound made its ears twitch. It lifted its head. Something was approaching. The titan lizard emerged from the shadows of the ravine, its tongue flicking, tasting the air. Its scales glistened with dust and sweat. It moved slowly at first, then froze when it met the hyena's eyes. The wind stopped. The ravine fell into silence. Unlike at the watering hole days before, there was no prey between them. This confrontation was direct. Territory, water, dominance, survival. The hyena snarled deeply, stepping away from the water to assert its claim. The lizard remained still, reading its opponent with cold reptilian focus. The ravine was too narrow for escape. One of them had to yield, or the ravine would become a graveyard. The hyena approached first, circling the lizard, paws barely brushing the gravel. Its movements were smooth, controlled, almost calculated to provoke a reaction. The lizard turned with measured precision, each motion deliberate, its muscles tensed beneath its thick skin. Suddenly, the hyena lunged forward, jaws targeting the lizard's face. The lizard whipped its tail upward in a defensive strike. The blow connected with the hyena's shoulder, spinning it sideways. The hyena recovered instantly, skidding across the dirt. The lizard surged forward, jaws snapping, teeth clacking together with bone-crushing force. The hyena dodged, its claws scraping the ground as it dashed around the lizard, striking from the flank. It bit down hard on the base of the lizard's tail. The lizard thrashed violently. Dust exploded around them. Gravel clattered down the ravine walls. The lizard twisted its body, turning its powerful jaws toward the hyena. The hyena released its grip just in time, backing away. The lizard lunged, spearing forward with surprising speed, and its teeth grazed the hyena's ribcage. Both stepped back, panting under the fading sunlight, blood staining their hides. The hyena's shoulder throbbed from the earlier tail strike. The lizard's tail bled where the hyena had bitten it. Neither had won. Neither would retreat. Night fell heavy over the ravine. The moon hung, high cold, pale, an indifferent casting long shadows that stretched across the battered ground where predator and predator had clashed only moments ago. The air was cool now, but charged with leftover aggression. Dust still floated where the struggle had churned the earth. Blood dripped silently from rocks. The cave hyena stood on one end of the ravine, chest heaving, saliva mixed with blood threading between its fangs. Opposite it, the titan lizard held its ground, tongue flicking, sensing every vibration of its wounded opponent. The Drylands held their breath. Then, slowly, the hyena stepped back, not in retreat, but in strategy. It circled wide, choosing higher footing along the ravine wall. From there, it could see the lizard's entire body, its weak forelimb, its bleeding tail, its heaving lungs. The titan lizard tracked the movement with unblinking eyes, its nostrils flaring rhythmically. It wasn't fast, but it didn't need to be. It was a walking fortress, a reptilian tank. It only had to get close once. The hyena knew this. The lizard knew this. A single mistake from either would end this battle. For a moment, the night returned to silence. No wind, no birds, no distant hooves. The world had shrunk to the size of the ravine, two silhouettes, forming the ancient equation of predator against predator. The hyena struck first. A burst of speed, pure muscle, quiet paws pounding against gravel. It came from the high ground, leaping downward with jaws aimed for the lizard's neck. The lizard twisted in a blur of scales and weight, tail whipping like a hammer. The blow hit the hyena midair. It crashed into the dirt, skidding. Stones scraped fur, blood streaked the ground. The lizard lunged, jaws widening. The hyena rolled just in time, the teeth closing inches from its ribs. The sound echoed like rocks crashing together. The lizard surged forward again, each step a thundering weight. The hyena scrambled upward, body screaming in pain, but instinct sharper than fear guided it. It darted behind a large stone, just as the lizard's jaws slammed into it. The rock cracked under the force. Pebbles rained down. The hyena was breathing hard. The lizard continued advancing. Its eyes glowed with cold, ancient hunger. Both animals were tiring. Blood loss slowed the lizard. Cracked ribs weakened the hyena. But survival did not belong to the strongest. It belonged to the one that adapted the fastest. The hyena shifted position and attacked from the side, sinking its jaws into the lizard's flank. The lizard's roar was a deep, guttural, prehistoric sound. It twisted violently, throwing the hyena backward. The hyena slammed into rock, pain tearing through its spine. Still, it stood. Still, it refused to yield. The lizard staggered, breathing harder, blood dripping from its side. Its movements grew slower, but its intent sharpened. This was no longer combat, it was endurance. Which creature would collapse first? Which could push past pain? The lizard advanced again, but this time the hyena didn't run. It waited, it watched, it learned. At the last moment, as the lizard lunged forward, the hyena dodged sideways and went for the injured forelimb. With a savage bite, it clamped down. The lizard screamed. Its entire body convulsed. The hyena pulled with everything left inside, twisting its head violently, tearing muscle and tendon. The titan lizard collapsed partly to one side, its injured leg unable to support weight anymore. This was the crack in the armor the hyena had been waiting for. The hyena leaped back, then forward again, driving all its weight into the lizard's neck. The lizard thrashed, tail sweeping through the dust. The hyena held on, its jaws dug deeper, muscles trembling with effort. The lizard twisted violently, rolling its massive body and slamming the hyena against rock, crushing breath from its lungs. The hyena gasped, choking, nearly losing its grip. The lizard dragged itself forward, trying to escape, but its leg failed. Strength was slipping. It swung its tail weakly, no longer powerful enough to break bone. The hyena attacked again, this time going for the throat. Its jaws locked. The lizard hissed, struggled, clawed at the dirt, dragging both bodies across the ravine floor. Dust swirled around them like a ghostly storm. The hyena's paws dug into the earth as it held tight, muscles burning, ribs screaming, breath shallow. The lizard's struggles became slower, weaker. Its tail movements turned from violent sweeps to trembling shivers. The moon watched in cold silence. Finally, after a long, brutal struggle, the titan lizard collapsed. The hyena waited, never trusting a predator's last movements. The lizard twitched once, twice, then went still. Dust settled. The ravine grew quiet again. The giant cave hyena released its grip, stepping back cautiously. It paced around the massive reptile, ears twitching, eyes alert. Only when it was certain the lizard's chest no longer rose did the hyena allow itself to breathe. It had one, not through strength alone, but through intelligence, patience, and sheer will. The hyena stood over the fallen titan lizard, panting heavily. Blood stained its muzzle. Wounds burned across its body. It was victorious, but the price was carved into every injury. The Drylands did not give rewards, they demanded sacrifices. The wind returned, carrying dust across the ravine, brushing over the body of the titan lizard and the wounds on the hyena's hide. Buzzards circled above, but none dared descend. This kill belonged solely to the predator who had earned it. The hyena lowered its head and began to feed. Not with the frenzy of a scavenger, but with the respect of a hunter who had defeated a rival worthy of legend. Every bite restored strength. Every moment cemented its place at the top of the Drylands hierarchy. By dawn, the sky glowed orange, the shadows faded. The ravine, once a battlefield, now looked like a silent monument, a reminder of raw prehistoric survival. The titan lizard's massive form lay still, half consumed. Life would return here soon. Smaller creatures would pick the remains clean, bones would bleach under the sun. And one day, millions of years later, fossils might tell this story in whispers. The hyena climbed the ravine slope, limping, but proud. It paused at the top and scanned the plains. The sun bathed its fur in golden light. The land belonged to it again, not because it was the strongest, but because it adapted to a world that was becoming harder with every passing season. It turned toward the caves. It had survived. In a world reshaped by drought, only those who embraced change endured. Predators did not win through muscle alone. They won through understanding the land, anticipating danger and exploiting opportunity. The Drylands stretched endlessly before the hyena, cracked earth, scattered bones, distant silhouettes of migrating herds, harsh, unforgiving, yet alive. The hyena walked forward, disappearing into the shimmering heat, its silhouette becoming part of the prehistoric landscape once more. And so, the war for the Drylands ended, not with glory, not with triumph, but with the quiet, eternal truth of the ancient world. Survival belongs only to those who can adapt.